Just this past weekend, on what was supposed to be a celebratory event in Northern Australia at the Kumala State School, Donny Morrison, a 69-year-old grandfather, lost his life as he attempted to save his friend from a snake bite.
A man has died after being bitten by a snake while celebrating a North Queensland school's 100-year anniversary.
So the community was celebrating the school's 100-year anniversary. Kumala State, it's a very well-known school. The attendees, especially Donny Morrison, they were in very high spirits. Donny was particularly happy to have been catching up with so many old friends. Now the incident had happened around 8 p.m. A snake had coiled itself around the leg of a 65-year-old man. And Donny, who was a very empathetic man and a very caring man according to all accounts, very helpful, he rushed over to his aid, attempting to uncoil the snake from his leg. Now in the process, he was bitten multiple times on the arms and in the chest by what was widely believed to be an eastern brown snake, which is known as one of the most deadliest snakes, in case you're not aware, in not just Australia but the world. Now the eastern brown snake's venom is a lethal cocktail of neurotoxins. You're looking at presynaptic neurotoxins to be specific, and postsynaptic neurotoxins. Now these are capable of inducing muscle weakness and also paralysis. But the venom's terror doesn't end there, because it also contains extremely potent procoagulants, which disrupts blood clotting and puts the victim at grave risk of major bleeding, so they can bleed out, and it's not pretty. It's an extremely excruciating way to go. And while the venom surprisingly spares local tissue from damage, it can lead to devastating renal, or in other words kidney failure, and usually multiple vials if you are envenomated, but this is usually only 20% of bites. They require antivenom treatment, but if you do require the treatment, then you're looking at multiple vials of specialized antivenom, which are very costly, not to mention. You need them urgently administered to counteract the life-threatening coagulopathies. So of course, realizing the gravity of the situations, bystanders immediately called for an ambulance, who began performing CPR on Donny Morrison, and despite 30 minutes of resuscitation attempts and the use of a defibrillator, he would unfortunately go into cardiac arrest and could not be revived. Now once again, Acting Deputy Commissioner Claire Burtonshaw confirmed that the snake was most certainly the highly venomous eastern brown, and she would also go on to provide key advice on how to handle snake bites, because of course there's a lot of them in that region. Northern Australia is filled with them. Australia in general is filled with a lot of snakes, of course, as a lot of us know, and a lot of them are venomous. Some of the most venomous snakes in the world, many of them do live in Australia. That's no secret there. And the commissioner, of course, would go on to emphasize the importance of limiting the movement of venom in the body by lying down, staying still if possible, if the circumstances allowed, of course, and applying pressure to the bite area. Now, generally, when you're in areas like this, you want to have a snake bite kit. These can be extremely useful in addition to any first aid kit, especially when you're venturing into these snake-prone areas, or if you live in these snake-prone areas. A lot of people have these. These kits, they contain essential items like compression bandages and often antiseptics, which can be crucial. They can mean life or death, especially in the initial moments after a snake bite. And of course, marking the area of the bite and capturing, killing, or getting a good look at least of the snake that bit you, this can greatly help, as antivenom is usually administered based on the species of snake. So it's different for every snake, and you got to be really careful. Only certain snakes, there are only a few species of snakes where antivenom can be used universally for them. So it's highly species dependent, so that's also a very key point I want to make. This applies for all snake bites, not just the eastern brown, but any venomous snake bite. You want to apply these tactics if you're around them or if you live around them. So the 65-year-old man who was bitten, Donny did turn out to be a hero. He did save this man, because rescuers did manage to airlift him to McKay Base Hospital, and he was discharged on Sunday morning. So this happened just this past weekend once again, and it's reported that he's in stable condition. So that's at least one bright spot in what was overall a very tragic story, and what was supposed to be a celebration, and suddenly there's a loss of life. So once again, extremely tragic. My condolences go out to the Morrison family. The family really seems like a great family, a very kind family. They thank the community for their efforts to try to save Donny, and that really shows their character. They went on to thank the school for putting on a wonderful celebration, and they also expressed their apologies that the tragedy led to the event, which was once again a century anniversary, ending so early. So that was very thoughtful on the family's part, and it just goes to show that Donny was not only a hero, but the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So police are conducting toxicology tests and preparing a report for the coroner, and the Kumala State School P&C publicly offered condolences to the Morrison family and all those involved in trying to save Mr. Morrison during the horrific ordeal. So it's important that I note before ending this video that this incident is not isolated. Globally, about 5.4 million snake bites occur each year worldwide, leading to about 81,000 to 137,000 deaths. That's a lot of people killed by snakes each year. And in Queensland alone, there are approximately almost 1,000 people that record snake bites, and that's just recorded once again. These happen in rural areas. These happen in areas where snakes, they don't go out of their way to bite people, but if they're all around you and they find dark places to stay, you know what I mean? Like maybe inside shoes, behind curtains, under a tarp, you know, you name it, like wherever you can think of a very nice, dark, cool spot where they can chill out away from the sun when they're not trying to bask in it and gain that energy when they're just trying to rest. You can find a snake, especially in places like Australia and East Africa, you know what I mean, or in many places in Africa, actually, many parts of that continent. So like I said, this was very unfortunate, and Donny's community mourns his loss, and his story will of course go on to serve as a cautionary tale, hopefully saving lives in the future. It also highlights the need, of course, for the preparedness and the education on how to handle these life-threatening situations involving wildlife, you know, all kinds of wildlife that you can find in these regions. So as investigations continue, case studies will also be done to reassess outdoor safety in these regions, especially in gatherings like these. Now, if this episode piqued your interest, there are other episodes that I just recently released, one being an animal encounter montage, about 4 of them where I explain and break down these animal encounters. These are real-life animal encounters that occurred with actual footage. They're quite crazy and quite horrifying, to be honest. They could have led to tragedy. They could have been much more deadly than they were. So do check them out. I'll leave a link for you at the end screen of this video. Once again, this is Animal Al. Peace.